Meetup. I'm very happy to have you here. This is amazing. We're starting basically right on time, even a minute early, which is an accomplishment for any meetup. If you've been to our meetups in the past, you know, or if you host a meetup, you know the complexity of organizing something like this. So on that note, I want to say thank you to our captainers, Polly and Polly, remind me, it's Texas Caption. And also to James Herndon and Meryl and Thomas from the Equal team, and to Jolly from the Internet Society of New York. So a couple of other thank yous to Equal Entry, Fable, and Google for graciously sponsoring our event today. And James, am I missing anything in terms of sponsors?
Yeah, we have Equal Entry, Google, Adobe, and Fable Tech Labs sponsoring.
Yes, Adobe, of course. And all of those companies are doing really great work in the accessibility space. So if you have any questions about that, let me know. I'm happy to talk about that. One other matter to speak to is that we have our meetup on meetup.com. It's A11yNYC. And that's probably where you found us. But if you didn't find us from there, go to meetup.com/A11yNYC. And you'll see that we have an event queued up for January. And you're welcome to RSVP for that. And finally, our Twitter account, just A11yNYC. I also wanted to wish you all a very happy International Day of People with Disabilities. So this is a very special day, and a special day to have with us José Bourdain. He's going to give us some background about accessible tourism and how it relates to the work he's doing in Portugal. So José, take it away.
Thank you. I want to thank you for the invitation that was sent to me. Thank you to Thomas and all the team. I'm going to make a presentation of my country, especially of my company, that work the tourism for people who need some kind of accessibility or have some health problem, etc. I'm going to share here a PowerPoint. Just give me a second. I think you need to allow me to share. You need to allow me to share. You deactivated that possibility.
Let me update that. I'm sorry.
Okay, no problem.
Or make a co-host. Okay, give that a try.
Let's try now. Okay.
There you go.
Okay. So, TourismForAll. We are a Portuguese tour operator, also travel agency. We're doing coming and also outgoing for people who need some kind of accessibility or have some physical problems, some health problem, visual impairment, etc. We also work medical and health tourism in Portugal. Myself work with people with disabilities since I was 16 years old. For almost 34 years that I work with people with disabilities. 23 years ago, I was the founder, the main founder, not only myself, but with other colleagues and relatives who have people with some kind of disability. We were the founders of nowadays, and since the last years, the major cooperative of social solidarity in Portugal. We are a non-profit organization. We have continuing care units. It's like hospitals, regard hospitals. We have homes for people with disabilities. We give support at houses of people, elder people who have some kind of physical problem, health problem, also people with disabilities, of course. We also have a rehabilitation clinic and also beauty clinics. We manage a spa from the second biggest chain of hotels in Portugal, but only one spa of one hotel they have in Sintra near our facilities. We work with the main insurance companies, and we also provide all the support to children at schools and kindergartners, etc. Of course, children who have some kind of disability or mental problems also. Our main goal and our mission is to provide high quality services for anyone who needs accessibility or need equipment, of course, when they travel to Portugal or other countries that we work with, that I will explain later. Like I was saying, we work mainly in Portugal, of course. We also do trips to Portugal and Spain, and sometimes we do tours for other countries because we have license to transportation from all Europe. We also work Cape Verde, where I'm right now with my partner here from Morabitur. We have a 9-seat van here and all the equipment. It's summertime whole year in this island of north of Africa, and that's the countries that we work directly. My country, the first time that the World Tourism Organization created this award in 2019, the best world destination for people with disabilities, it was Portugal that won with the Portuguese beaches. We have hundreds of accessible beaches with chairs that enter in the water and all kind of facilities for people with some kind of disability. The country itself won several world destinations awards, 2017, 18, and 19. Also best European destination, 17, 18, 19, and 20. And also the capital, Lisbon, also win best European award in 2018, and also the best European city break. So as you could see, Portugal is well known and gets all these awards in Europe and also in the world because it's a nice tourist destination. Speaking in more detail about the work that we do in accessible tourism, we have specialized transportation that we'll see later in the next slides. We have and give to the clients accessible accommodation in many hotels all over the country and also in the islands, in the Açores and Madeira, of course. We have staff that can give support 24 hours a day if necessary to our clients, medical auxiliary, physiotherapist, nurse, wherever. We do, of course, visitors and tours, all the daily care if the client need, of course. Also various activities with all the technical aids that the client needs. For example, we could put an electrical bed in the hotel, hoists, all the equipment that the clients need. We do almost everything. So, there's nothing that we can do, almost nothing, of course, that we cannot do in kinds of equipment and support to our clients. We also do some other kind of sports that is not very usual in this kind of tourism, like diving, horseback riding, parasailing, etc., etc. We have lots of possibilities, and we also do it with our clients in Portugal, since children to adults. This is some pictures of the kind of work that we do: rehabilitation, horse riding, daily care. Little pictures say more than words. Some examples of our chairs in beach, our equipment of support. We have one of the best museums in the world with the biggest collection of carriages, which also is prepared for visual impairments. This is our facilities. It's our own facilities at the hospital that I said that we have. Sometimes it's usual clients that came on board of cruise ships. Sometimes people get injured and go to hospitals, etc. And they become to our own facilities. We manage all things until they be repatriated to their countries. Some kinds of things that we do. This is some pictures of some hotels that we work with, which have good facilities, pools with ramps, rolling shower. This is our vehicles. We have since 9 seats. Last week we buy another car with 5 seats that the clients could rent. We have since 5-seat car with 1 wheelchair until 54 seats with 10 wheelchairs. We have vehicles with 5, like I said, 5, 9, 11, 16, 27, 33, and 54 seats, since 1 wheelchair until 10 wheelchairs, with many capacities. We have a big fleet, as you could see. This is one of our biggest buses. We have 2, one that took 10 wheelchairs, and we have another one with 8 wheelchairs. This is our 33 seats bus that take 5 wheelchairs. We have 2 Mercedes for VIP clients, one of 16 seats that take 3 wheelchairs, and then another one with 8 seats that also take 3 wheelchairs. And the other van with 9 seats that take 4 wheelchairs. It was this vans that work especially with the cruises, because we have usually small groups. It is some photos of our clients. The most famous one is, as you could see, it was Stephen Hawking. We made some tours with him in Lisbon. It is a comment of the team of Stephen Hawking. Other comments. And that's our location. I think everyone knows where is Portugal, but never knows. This is our contact. Of course, you could take a look at our website. And that's my presentation. I hope it was making a good time, not too rush, not too slow. And I'm here at your disposal for some kind of question that you want to ask me.
Sure. Thank you, Jose.
Thank you.
Yeah. To start, what's your website so I can drop it in the chat?
TourismForAll.com.
Oh, that's easy.
Yeah, it's easy.
Okay. And I'm curious. So your program Is it part of like a municipal or state program, or do you get funding from the government?
Sorry, sorry, didn't listen well.
Oh, do you get funding from
Could you repeat the
the,
question, please?
yeah, do you get funding from the government for your program?
No. We receive funds from the government to work in the homes of people, in the continued care units, etc. Not in tourism. In tourism is a private company that belongs to the non-profit organization that I told you, but it's the private company like any other company, and we don't receive funds.
And what
We
kind of work does
we live with our clients. Sorry.
what kind of work does Portugal do around accessibility in general? You said the beaches have ramps and it's well known as an accessible location. Is that private, like private beaches, or is it more government sponsored?
No, all public, and all the services are for free. Yeah.
Super cool.
Any people with some kind of visibility could go on the beach, use the chair and other equipments to go to the water, whatever, and everything is free.
What
And the staff from the
inspired,
beach gives support.
sorry, what inspired that work? Where did the funding and the motivation come from for the government to do that?
Well, our government, since the last governments, all of them, left, right governments, all of them have a commitment since more or less 15 years, great commitment to put Portugal with more accessibility in everywhere. We have a law that oblige all the buildings, the new ones, of course, since 15 years, like I said, to all of them have accessibilities, and the others who don't have it to transform and give him a date to transform the buildings and put them all accessible to people. Also in the streets, in the buildings, in the beaches, everywhere, the country is more and more and more accessible every day, which is great, of course, for everyone.
That's amazing. How
Yeah.
can, yeah, I mean, I'm thinking about, we're the New York City Accessibility Meetup, and thinking about ways that we can advance accessibility in New York. What do you think? What steps can we take to advance accessibility in New York City?
Well, I never been in New York. I was going to a fair, but because of the restrictions of the COVID, maybe I'll go.
Sure.
I'll go next year, I hope. But some people that I know that, of course, they already have been in New York. They say wonderful things about accessibility in the United States in general. But of course, everywhere, also in Portugal, there are some companies and some public facilities that don't have accessibility, or it's not the best one. And of course, by law, in Portugal, in the US, in everywhere, in my opinion, it must be by law that people must have the obligation to put everything accessible, of course. And the government have to exercise fiscalization if the things are going well or not. That's my opinion. And that's what we do in Portugal. Of course, not everything is perfect, and sometimes things don't work well. But that's the way, I think.
Excellent. Yeah, Mark Lasser here in the chat made a really good point, which I think is accurate, that the MTA, which is New York City's transportation authority, needs a lot of work, and Broadway, I'm assuming, Mark, you mean Broadway shows, musicals and events need a lot of work. And that's an area where, yeah, that's an area where we've actually showcased some practitioners on Broadway that are doing accessible accessible shows. Some of the shows, some of their programs for deaf audiences, but in general, and you hinted at this, there are companies and organizations and structures that are older. So they're like out of scope for new legislation. And that's a big problem. I mean, I've seen if you go into some buildings, you go in the back, it's like a beautiful interior, and then you go in the bathroom.
Yes.
The bathroom, it looks like it's from like the 60s, and it probably is, because it costs tens of thousands of dollars to refurbish a bathroom. And if you touch it, if you change anything, you have to make it wheelchair accessible and compliant with the ADA. So it's an interesting problem. And it sounds like it's a similar consideration in Portugal. And I'm not sure. I'm not sure what to make of it, but I'm happy to hear that there's a commitment by the government to advance accessibility. That's super cool. And one other thing that made me think of that, is there you said there was specific legislation. There's laws in Portugal around accessibility. Does that is that fairly recent?
Yes.
Or you said yeah.
2006.
Okay.
From 15 years ago. We have the same problems in Portugal, monuments, etc. But in most of places we are very creative. We have portable things, portable toilets, portable ramps. We try to look around and be creative with those kinds of obstacles. But of course, not 100%, because there are buildings which quite impossible to change, because all buildings, some of them are World Heritage, and it's quite complicated to do some improvements in those kinds of buildings and monuments in general.
Do you think that I would imagine, and correct me, that Portugal has a very large tourism industry?
Yes.
Does that impact the decision to pursue accessibility at a state level? I mean, is the government thoughtful about tourism as a driver for accessibility?
Yes.
That's awesome.
The last two secretaries of state for tourism, they were very commitment with accessibility in tourism. Very, very commitment. They give funds to city halls and other public monuments, and also public companies, etc. They give specific funds to make things more accessible, which of course it was and is great. They still do that.
How does the legislation apply to digital accessibility? This is a personal interest of mine, but online accessibility.
Sorry, could you repeat the question?
Sure.
Sometimes the internet.
How does the law apply to digital accessibility? So website accessibility, application accessibility.
We also have legislation for that, but the fiscalization is not so good, and things are not so good with in the web. But there are legislation also for that.
Interesting. I love this idea of making tourism a driver for accessibility, because accessibility is about inclusion, and tourism is very much driven by inclusion and being welcoming and inviting. So I think maybe that's one answer for New York City is how do we make a welcoming environment? Unfortunately, you know, travel restrictions make it a lot harder, but I look forward to seeing tourism as a driver as we move through travel restrictions and health concerns in New York City. I really love that framework.
One of the things that I see is that the main problem is the transportation, especially in aviation. That's the main problem for people who wants to travel. And every person that I know, they complain about that. That's really the main problem. It's really the main problem.
Yeah, there's a really unfortunate case recently, tragic case of an accessibility and disability advocate passing away sort of as a indirect result of the airline damaging her wheelchair. So it's such a it's such a fundamental issue to travel, and it's distressing. So what one other question from the chat: how about accessible booking? How does someone who's blind or who's deaf work with you to book travel? I mean, I use blind and deaf specifically because those are obstacles that may impact communication.
Yes, that's our main challenge because we don't have many places in Portugal that we don't have such a huge offer like we have for people in a wheelchair, for example. But we have some kind of monuments like the photo that I show you, and the military museum in Lisbon, and other monuments that people can touch on the. It's forbidden for everyone except people with some visual impairment, and they can touch things, which is nice. We also have maquettes of the monuments. We have menus in Braille in some languages. We have some restaurants, some hotels that are prepared for blind people and deaf people. The offer is quite less than for a wheelchair, for people in wheelchair, of course. But we have such kind of offer, and we organize trips according to the impairment that clients have. Some people for Portugal, for example, travel with oxygen needs, for example.
Yeah.
It's not very usual, but sometimes happens. We also provide that. We try to provide everything. We provide almost everything.
And if
I do dialysis, for example, it's possible to travel. If you do dialysis, for example, you could do dialysis during the day. You could do dialysis at night, for example, between 8 p.m. and 12 p.m. and don't close the tours during the day. Almost everything is possible with us because, like I told you, we work with people with disabilities for many, many years. We have also hospital facilities. We have doctors, nurses. We have our own staff. In our organization, we work 240 people. So we are a big team in all the organization, of course. In tourism, we are a team of 6. But we provide almost everything, and we also have partnerships with hospitals and the health sector in general.
So that's great, and I'm really happy to hear that about that commitment. What about if I wanted to actually, let's say I'm blind or and I want to actually book travel with you? Is the website? Do you have a similar commitment to digital accessibility? Can I go on the website and actually book travel with you? What's the best way to reach you if I'm if I'm using a screen reader or if I'm using other assistive technologies?
Yeah, we must make some improvements in our website, but in that example, the best way is to call us or send us an email. It's the best way to contact us.
Okay.
And we speak
Good.
with the client, see what the client wants to need. If
Right.
he wants to go to some monuments, he wants to dive, he wants to go to the beach, to have some
Sure.
sensorial experiences in a wine museum, etc., etc., etc.
Yeah, I know that commitment that you're describing to digital accessibility, the at least the desire to improve is will be well received by the blind community and people with motor impairments being able to use your digital content. So I support that. Are there any other questions from the chat? I'm just so happy that you joined us today, Jose. And I said in the chat earlier, I'm ready to book my flight because it sounds like Portugal is just like a beautiful place, and the commitment to accessibility and inclusion extends to all of us. Being inclusive is not limited to people with disabilities. It's an expansive quality that I think signals a really positive aspect of the Portuguese culture and the Portugal's infrastructure and commitment to accessibility. So that's super cool. There was one other question. Oh, someone missed the first few minutes. They're asking about other locales, if the travel is limited to Portugal. Remind us where else do you operate?
We
Besides
operate
Portugal?
in all country. In all country.
Okay.
And also you usually do trips Portugal and Spain also. And
Okay.
sometimes we also go more to north and to France, Belgium, etc. But usually Portugal, of course, old country.
Mostly Portugal.
And sometimes Portugal and Spain.
To that point, do you know of other companies that are doing similar work in other parts of the world? Do you have partner companies in, like, I don't know, Thailand?
Yes, I know lots of companies that in many countries in the world do similar things that we do. And one of the things that I have lots of proud, sorry to say that, don't misunderstanding me, but many people who work this kind of tourism for more years than us, they give us the congratulations because we have a very, very complete service. Because most of companies, they have transportation, they, of course, they have the tours, the hotels, etc., but don't have the all things that we have, you know, and sometimes they don't have the transportation. They have the transportation of another company. They have the guide, etc. But we have our own transportation. We have our own equipment. We have hospital facilities. We have the staff. We have the equipment. We have everything, you know, which is best for the clients. Is easier for us. We don't depend of other companies, which is not bad, of course, but it allows us to organize better things and give a faster answer to the client. Usually companies don't have everything like we have, and that's one of the things that we have lots of pride is on that, because we have almost everything. And I think it's quite important, of course.
I imagine it makes a difference.
We work with many countries. We work with many companies in all world.
Oh, cool.
That's the head services like we have in Portugal.
Amazing. Do you know of any
also in
New
Thailand?
York City?
Also in Thailand.
Well, I'll do some research and find out what we have in New York City. I imagine we have something like that.
In New York, I don't know. In New York, I
Yeah.
don't know.
So that's my homework.
I know in California, but not in
Yeah.
New York.
New York is difficult again because of the older infrastructure, and it's just very dense. Things are much more compact. So in particular for wheelchair users, it can be challenging. It's not easy. But that said,
next year.
I don't want to discourage anyone from coming to New York. I think the commitment and the welcome, there's such an abundance of generosity I find in New Yorkers. People have a stereotype about New Yorkers as being edgy or like unwelcoming, and I find that is entirely untrue. I feel that in general, New Yorkers will help you when you need it. That can be a problem too in general if you don't want help, but that's not the kind of help I mean. I mean like being welcoming and inclusive. So if you're not in New York, this is the New York City Accessibility Meetup. Come to New York and then go to Portugal and enjoy.
Next year I will. Maybe in May,
yes.
I think. May, June.
Yeah.
I think
June is better. Early June.
Yes, I think
Perfect
so.
weather.
It's more warm.
Yeah. Well, if there are no other questions from the group, again, thank you, Jose, and thank you Tourism for All. Yeah, visit tourismforall.com. And I want to say thank you again to our captioners, to Equal Entry, Adobe, Fable Technology, and Google for being generous sponsors of our event. Go to A11yNYC on Meetup, join the Meetup, and keep track of what's coming up, because we do a Meetup every month. So I look forward to seeing all your friendly names in Zoom next month at our next Meetup. So again, thank you, Jose. Thank you to everyone for joining.
Thank you, me.
And that's a wrap. Take care.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye.
Record.